Hi guys, today I'm doing a very exciting video, and this video is in partnership with BetterHelp. This is not a sponsored video, but they did reach out to me and provide their services to me for free in order to do this review, and I was very, very excited when I heard about this. Now, before I get into the review and really what BetterHelp is, I wanted to give a little preface of why this was a good collaboration for me. If you haven't been on my channel for a while, you may not know that I've struggled with anxiety for over 7 years now, and it has gone from kind of mild to completely severe where I couldn't even leave the house. It has really affected my life in really negative ways. I've had severe panic attacks. I've had moments where I thought I would never get out of anxiety, where that fear and that panic literally just lived within me all day, every day. Like, I couldn't just even sit at home and watch TV without feeling anxious. It has also been times where I've actually been like 80% good, and then the anxiety only pops up during certain circumstances and things like that. Right now in my life, I have been doing pretty well. I am definitely not at my 100% where I could be, but I am on medication, which is nothing to do with BetterHelp. It was with an actual therapist that I saw in person, but I do think that BetterHelp is a service that can really benefit a lot of people. So let's get into what it is and why I think it's beneficial. So BetterHelp is essentially an online therapist, in a way. Well, I guess what they describe it as is virtual therapy, which is pretty cool if you think about it. I know that the internet for a lot of people has a really bad negative space, and it has a lot of bad connotations, and things like social media and all this stuff can be so negative sometimes, but this is the type of thing that shows the good that the internet can do, in my opinion. At first thought, you might think like virtual therapy sounds kind of like really, is that going to do anything? And I kind of thought that too, but then once I really looked into it and looked up other reviews and experienced it myself, so now I've been using BetterHelp for about 2.5 months, and I really, really like it. And that is not because they provided it to me for free. I didn't actually know they were going to do that when they first reached out to me. I was willing to pay for it, so we will get into prices and all that kind of stuff. They offer both individual therapy and couples therapy and therapy for kids, so like if you're watching this and one of your teenagers or something might need therapy, it also offers that as an option. One of the reasons I found online therapy to be so kind of like something I was interested in right off the bat is because how convenient is that? Something for me, I guess a trigger, I guess you could call it, is doctor's offices. I hate going to the doctor, and not just how normal people hate going to the doctor. I get severe anxiety about it. I've been doing a lot better lately, but driving out of my way, especially if it's not close by doctor, sitting in a waiting room is something for me that feels very claustrophobic, like I can't escape, like I can't go anywhere. I hate that feeling. Like, waiting for me is one of my worst triggers for anxiety. So going into an office and sitting in a waiting room around other people and just having to sit there and wait for an appointment is like the worst thing in the world. And I'm sure that if that's the fact for me, I'm sure it's the case for a lot of other people. Some people may be dealing with so much anxiety or depression or any kind of mental illness that they might not feel comfortable leaving the house or going out to go to therapy. And that is something that really drew me into BetterHelp, is that you don't have to leave your house, you don't have to leave the comfort of your own bed. And I just think that, yeah, maybe some people would say, oh, going to therapy in and of itself is a big step, and that is true, but I do think for a lot of people who maybe struggle with more, I don't know, I don't want to say mild, but kind of like mental illness that affects your life but isn't debilitating, if that makes sense. This is also an affordable option, which is great because, as you probably know, therapy in America is super, super pricey, and a lot of insurances just don't cover it. And if they do, they cover, for me, for instance, my insurance covers therapy, but only at one location, and it takes about 6 months to get an appointment. So if you need an appointment and you need to talk to someone, waiting 6 months is not going to be helpful for you. I've shared my story before with finding a therapist, and that has been a nightmare for me. I think the process of finding a therapist that works for you can actually make your anxiety or depression or any mental illness worse. It can make you stressed out and anxious, and that's the experience I had anyway. Finding a therapist isn't enough. It's not like finding like a dentist, This is someone who you are going to have to connect with, someone who has to understand you, that you feel like you're being listened to and understood. If you have a plan and you don't want to go on medication, you don't want a therapist that's going to tell you to go on medication, and vice versa. You want someone who really takes into account what you have to say and respects your choices. So I find it very hard to find a therapist. And then when you're, in the confines of insurance, it's even harder. And I have never once in my life found a therapist through a process like what BetterHelp offers. I did have a therapist, a fantastic one that I loved last year, but my insurance changed and she was no longer covered, so that's something that really sucks. BetterHelp does not have to do that. The prices for BetterHelp are $40 to $70 a week, which might still sound pricey, but if you compare that to the price of a therapist, for me anyway, the therapist that I loved, that if I wanted to go to now and pay full price, it would be over $200 per appointment. So if I went once a week, that's so expensive. So this $40 to $70 a week is amazing, and you don't have to make an appointment every week. You can do every 2 weeks, you can do every month if you just want to check in. So I do really like that. And apparently, according to their website, it says that 94% of people prefer their BetterHelp therapy to face-to-face therapy, which honestly, at first I was like, no way, but now that I've been having this therapy online, I really understand how that's true, and I think it makes sense for a lot of people who maybe have social anxiety and maybe even have anxiety just going to talk to your therapist, this person that you're supposed to be able to completely let your walls down around. I can see how talking online may be more comfortable. So who do I think this is right for? I think it's right for people with limited time. Maybe they work a lot, have a family, and they just don't have time to get to a therapist. One thing I also want to mention is that these sessions are only a half an hour. They're not a full hour, which I would say most therapists I've ever been to anyway has been a full hour, 50 to 60 minute appointments. These appointments are 30 minutes, so you're not going to get as much out of one appointment as you would with an hour-long therapy session. I am not sure if you can request an hour-long session. I might have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure, but for me it's always been a half an hour, which has been beneficial, but for some people it might not be long enough. This also is not through insurance, so you don't need insurance to get this therapy. And if you're wondering, like, these are not just random hacks coming online giving you advice. These are licensed professionals, so these are not people who can prescribe you medications. These are not psychiatrists. They are licensed professional therapists. So that is a little bit different than a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but it is just as beneficial in my experience, depending on your needs. This is not something, like I said, that you need health insurance for. Some insurances might offer certain options for you with this. I'm obviously not an insurance expert, is anyone, but there are certain health insurance programs that might offer you some kind of like a payment card that you can pay for with this, something like that. Another thing I want to mention is that if you cannot afford their full prices, you can apply and see if you're eligible for a discount. Now, I have a state-funded health insurance, so that means that when I did initially look into BetterHelp before they offered me 3 months for free, I would have been approved for the lower cost option, which I think is really great that they have. And another thing I want to mention is that in real life, people can't afford therapy, and a lot of people who suffer with mental illnesses, whether minor or major, cannot afford therapy, and that is one of the reasons, people who have money can afford going to therapy full price. And I'm not saying that their issues are any smaller, but that is one issue they won't have, unlike some people with mental illness who cannot afford to go to therapy, and that's one of the major issues. These people don't have access, but this gives you that access for a lower price, and I think that that's something that's really, really fantastic and beneficial about BetterHelp, and something that initially drew me in. When I found that out, I thought, wow, the fact that they can lower the prices for people who really need that lower price and that are on that budget makes me look at the company overall and think, wow, who does that, It really shows that they want to help people who need help. I also wanted to talk about, like I said, I find it very difficult to find a therapist that you click with. You can't just go to therapy and expect it to work with any therapist. You need someone that works for you, and the process they have to matching you with the right therapist for you is unlike anything I've ever dealt with out in like the real world of therapists and doctors. Usually you just go through your insurance or go through a referral from another doctor, and you don't know how you're going to click with these people, so you could end up paying for 3 different sessions with 3 different therapists and not click with any of them. This gives you kind of a quiz. It's not really a quiz, but you answer some questions about your preferences of what you want in a therapist. You answer questions about objectives. What do you want out of this? Do you want more confidence? Do you need help with couples therapy? Like, it'll give you what you want. Like, for me, it would be to lower my anxiety levels. But when I first started out, I had just lost my 2 cats, so I was dealing with a little bit of grief as well. So you can choose your objectives, and they will match you with a therapist who has a lot of experience with that. You also have preferences if you want someone who is LGBTQ, or if you want someone who's African American, or maybe has your same experiences in life. I can totally understand that. Like, for me, I think I'm pretty sure I wanted a female therapist. I just feel more comfortable talking to a female. So you can choose those things. You know, you don't really have that choice when you're dealing with like traditional therapy. So I thought that was amazing. You also have the option of your issues. Any issue that you have, you can pick a therapist that has more experience with that. So if you're dealing with an eating disorder or addiction, you can request a therapist that has experience with those things. If you want someone who has experience with LGBTQ issues or racial issues or anything like that, anxiety, depression, literally there's a whole list of, I want to say, more than 25 different things that you can pick your therapist has their kind of expertise in. I think that's awesome. I think that's such a unique, like, for the fact that this is lower than traditional therapy in cost, but higher in quality, in my opinion, at least with this part of matching you with a therapist that works. So right off the bat, they matched me with a therapist I've been talking to, and I've kept her from day one because I felt like we really clicked. She really had the same kind of vibe as me and kind of understands when I say things. There's some people that I think, you know, whether it comes to dating, friendship, therapist, anything, there's people you explain things to and they just don't get it the way you describe it. So I feel like they really matched me properly with someone who gets me. And I think that that is so important when it comes to therapy, because you really need to feel confident and comfortable talking to this person. They do have 3 options of types of sessions you can have. You can have a video session, so it's like a video chat, like a Skype. You can have a phone call, or you can have an instant message. And I have done only messaging. Now, I would love to do video chat or phone call. That's something that I do think would probably be more helpful, because you get more out of your time, you get to talk more. You know, when you're typing, that takes up time, but for me, because I live in a house with 5 other people or 4 other people, I want more privacy, so the typing keeps it private. If I had to talk out loud, I would just feel more uncomfortable, like people could hear me. Like when I actually went to the therapist in person, they have these noise machines outside the doors so that no one can hear what you're talking about, and you don't really get that option. If you live alone, of course, or you have time alone to do this therapy, you can obviously choose other options, or if privacy is not an issue for you, things like that. Also, if you're someone who loves being outdoors, you can have these phone calls and stuff outdoors. But like I said, I have only done the instant messaging, and as much as I feel like that's probably the one that's the least effective, and I still found it very effective. But in my experience, the therapist comes on right when your session is going to start, and they end right on time, which I think is really also a great thing, because in-person therapy, that is not always the case. You can sit there waiting 15 to 20 minutes because you're in an office, things happen. Because it is online, I feel like it's just more, you know, you're saving a whole lot of time driving, gas money, sitting in a waiting room, dealing with all of that. You don't have to deal with that. They also give you, when you first sign on with a new therapist, they'll give you some kind of, they call it worksheets. So you just kind of fill out how you're feeling. It depends on what your issues are and like what you want help with. They'll give you a specific worksheet so they can kind of get a feeling of what you're going through and what state you're in before they really offer you therapy. Now for me, obviously I'm not going to go and give you like the details of my therapy, but one of my big issues is sleep. Now I guess for some people that's not like a mental health problem, but it really can alter your mental health. I have really bad insomnia. I struggle to fall asleep, I struggle to stay asleep, and within my first session, my therapist gave me amazing advice. She offered me like YouTube videos to go and watch to help me relax. She offered me so much advice on meditation and mindfulness that I had never really received before. I mean, I feel like every therapist gives you some kind of a level of like mindfulness and, you know, breathing techniques, but she really worded it in a way that made sense to me, and it had never really done that for me before. I always looked at like meditation as like something I've tried to do, but I never really got it. Like it just didn't work for me, but she worded it in a way that I could make mindfulness work for me, and that is why I think matching you with a therapist based on your questions is so important. So what this did is it really gave me a chance to kind of work on things I've tried to work on before but couldn't, because I didn't understand the way my therapist put it. I have a hair in my face, I apologize. She has helped me with everything from issues that I have with codependency, issues I have with sleep, issues I have with anxiety avoidance. Most of you probably know I adopted 2 cats recently, and they have helped me tremendously just with my mood and my overall well-being. Animals, I'm sure as most of you know, are miracle creatures that give you so much happiness and joy, and since I adopted these 2 cats, not only has my grief level gone way down, but I feel so much more energized. Although they can keep me up at night, I feel like when they are asleep, I sleep better. Knowing I'm taking care of them and providing for them makes me feel good, and I feel so much more productive and just better about myself and less anxious and more calm and relaxed since I've gotten them. So she is working to help me with support animal, emotional support animal letter that I can provide to any apartments if I ever wanted to live somewhere that doesn't allow you to have animals. They have to by law if you have an emotional support animal letter, as well as flying with them. It can also help you with your taxes, so she is helping me with that. And I think the fact that when I brought that up to her, she was so open and supportive, and I mean, I just absolutely love how my therapist treats me. Like, she is just so respectful, and in the past I've had therapists that kind of talked down to me and told me I was kind of stupid, and, you know, I've had therapists that I asked questions to and they looked at me like, are you serious? And therapists that kind of judged me, or I felt judged by them, and the therapist I found through BetterHelp has made me feel just sane. She's made me feel supported, like I said. Like, everything I say, she is so open and honest about and really provides me with crucial information, and she is just so informative. And I just find that even when I say I'm doing better, for instance, I started online dating with a paid website that didn't work out, but when I first signed on, I was very excited about it, and I told her about it, and she was so supportive and like happy for me. And I've never really had a therapist do that. Even my last therapist, who I absolutely loved in person, it was more of a psychiatrist experience because I went to her specifically for medication. So on here you get someone who listens, and like, I know we have friends and family who listen, like can vent and stuff, but I think this is such a great way to have someone who listens, but who really listens and takes what you're saying and gives you honest advice and information and knowledge that you might not get anywhere else. And another thing I really like is that your therapist will give you their email address, and if you can also reach out to them anytime. I'm not saying they're going to answer right away. I haven't had to use that option, but if you are in crisis or you really just need to talk to someone faster, you can reach out and email. Say you have an appointment every 2 weeks. That's pretty much how mine has been. You can email your therapist throughout that just to ask a question or say, I'm having trouble with this, can you help me? And I just think that's a really awesome thing, because I feel like, in my experience anyway, like, I could call my therapist's office and say like, oh, I need this or that, or like I need a letter for school, whatever, but I couldn't like talk to my therapist really. So I really like that aspect as well. Like I said, they cannot prescribe you medication, so if that is what you're looking for, you will have to go through insurance for that. But for those looking for more holistic methods, this is just such a great option. I think if you've never been to therapy before, this might be a great way to start out and introduce yourself to how it works, the questions the therapist might ask you. I think that if you struggle maybe with just minor anxiety, or, you know, maybe anxiety with presenting at work or things like that, they can help you with that. This is definitely something that I wish I had access to for the last 7 years. This is something I think is amazing for those who don't like to go to a doctor in person. And whether you have anxiety about that, or you just don't have the time or the finances, I think it's a great option. I think it's something that teenagers specifically would love. I think that these methods are not only more convenient, but all of the things that make therapy give you more anxiety and make therapy difficult and make people probably not want to go to therapy, this takes that away. Like, it takes away the stigma of, you know, actually going to an appointment. It takes away the stigma of sitting in a waiting room, thinking people are looking at you, wondering why you're there. I mean, all those things shouldn't be there in the first place. You should be able to go to therapy in person and not deal with those things. But this kind of takes away all of the stuff that makes it a struggle to go to therapy. It makes it so convenient. Like, literally, because this is an option, there's no excuse not to do it. If I had this, I don't want to say my anxiety would have gone away sooner or I'd be better sooner or anything, but it just makes you feel better knowing that someone is there to listen, that you have access to someone right from your bed. Like, I can wake up on Saturday, Sunday morning and sign online and talk to my therapist for half an hour. That's another thing. You can use weekends, nights. They have appointments all the time. So if you're someone who works 9 to 5 and you don't have access to a normal appointment, this works for you. Sunday and Saturday appointments. I just think it's really fantastic. Like, I can't get over how much I love it. And like I said, you guys know, if you're familiar with me, like, I would never lie about something like this. Like, anxiety is something I've dealt with for so long, and you guys have seen in videos before, I've cried about it, I've been distraught about it. It has not ruined my life, but really put my life on hold for so long. Since I've been using this, I've just felt more motivated, and I think that's something that a lot of people struggling with mental illness probably feel, is like a lack of motivation to get better. You kind of get into this rut of, I have anxiety and now I'm just going to avoid things. I'm not going to do things that make me anxious. And sometimes you do have to do that. Sometimes you have to take a break and just say no to things that make you feel anxious. But if you let that control you all the time, you're just going to stop living your life. And I've been there. Like, for years I was kind of just stuck, and this has helped me feel more motivated to get things done, whether it's cleaning out my closet and organizing, or going out of the house and doing things and meeting people. Like, this can help you with so much of that, and just having that person who is licensed and knows what they're doing to give you advice and knowledge on things, and just support you in what you want to do, and just give you, I keep using the word advice, but just give you kind of guidance on how to get better at your own pace. I just think that's so amazing. I think it is like 50% of BetterHelp, the reason I love it so much is that whole process that matches you with a therapist, because that is the issue I've had the most with therapy in the past, is finding a therapist that works for me, someone who I get. I had an experience which I've talked about before, but I'm going to mention it real quick now, that I went to therapy, had an hour-long session. I felt amazingly connected to this woman. I felt like she got me. I felt like I was like so excited to keep going to therapy and get better. And the next day, they referred me to someone else in the office who was a student at the place I went to school, where I didn't trust because I've had very bad experiences there. So I wasted a whole price of an appointment, a whole hour of my life talking to this girl who was a student, which is fine. Like, students can do a lot of good work, but for me, because they were a student at my school where I felt so unsafe and didn't trust them, it was kind of set me back in my process of healing and getting better, because I didn't trust her. No one told me I was going to be seeing someone different. I wasted a whole appointment talking to someone who didn't get me and questioned everything I said. So that was just like really disappointing to me, and that whole experience was like so negative. And since then, I've had multiple other experiences like that, where like they've told me things that completely undercount me and make me feel like shit, to be honest. And I'm sure that a lot of you, if you've gone to therapy and have had similar experiences, like, it really shuts you off and it makes you not even want to get help, you know, from the cost to experiences like that. Like, I can see how people just want to sit with their anxiety and not get help. So I feel like BetterHelp just overall is so much more beneficial and easy and convenient and supportive. It's just like a more positive experience for someone who's dealt with anxiety for so long and has had so many bad experiences with traditional therapy. I cannot recommend BetterHelp enough. Now, I am going to put a link down below. I do make commission if you use my link, which is something that is fantastic for me, because oh my god, I was about to start crying. I am very much struggling right now with income. I am not making enough money, and I just adopted 2 kittens I have to pay for, and making money off of this commission could really help me. And that would not only improve my anxiety about money and bills and things like that, but it would also help me by providing me more time to make videos and help other people. And I can't do that if I can't make money through YouTube. So I do want to let you guys know that you don't have to use my link. You can sign up on your own, but I would really appreciate if you did use my link. It is down below, and I would really recommend you trying out BetterHelp. I just cannot recommend it enough. Like I said, did I say this? You can cancel. Like, if you try it and you don't like it, you can cancel. You can also request a new therapist. So say you matched with a therapist and you didn't click with them, you can request a new one. This is the largest platform worldwide for virtual therapy, which tells you already, like, that many people are using it, that it's working. Like, there's a reason they are so successful, and I just can't recommend it enough. Like, I really can't. I am pretty sure that I'm gonna keep paying for it once my free 3 months runs out, because I really get a lot out of it and I really feel so motivated and happier. I just feel like, I don't know, just like you wake up kind of with more of a purpose. I don't know, it sounds so cheesy, like, I know. And like, even for me, only having a therapy appointment for half an hour every 2 weeks online with an instant chat, it's amazing how much of a difference that can make in your life. That is my experience with BetterHelp. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to leave them below. I'm not sure how much I can answer because I don't actually work for the company, but if you do have questions, you can always reach out to like their customer service or look at their FAQs. They have lots of information on their website, and I just want to thank BetterHelp for offering this service to me and reaching out to me. They actually reached out to me because of my videos in the past talking about anxiety, and I immediately was so drawn in because I really felt like this was such a good match, and this is the kind of thing I want to talk about. This is one of the reasons I want to stay on YouTube and help people. The amount of people I've had reach out to me for my videos about acne and anxiety is tremendous, and I'm so honored that I can provide my experience, talk about my experience with you guys, and you know, you share your experiences with me and say that you feel related to, and that you don't feel alone, because I've shared my story that's similar to yours, and I just think that's so amazing. And I found, like, that sounds so cheesy and like, ugh, but you guys, I think you get it. So if you have been looking for therapy and can't find the right one, or you just don't really know what to expect, this is such a great way to kind of get an introduction or to find a therapist you've been looking for forever. So yeah, I feel like I've been trying to end this video for 5 minutes, but I just can't rave about it enough. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you did like it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and go and check out BetterHelp with a link down below. Thank you so much, and subscribe to see more from me. Bye!